the ignorance flow through each life. Through samsara flow laughter, tears and strife. Rest be mindlessly at delusion, burning on and on in illusion. For the Dhamma to study, we're grateful. Concentrate deeply what this is for. Knowing clearly there's nothing but Dhamma. From the bonds of suffering we are free. For the Dhamma to study we're grateful. Concentrate deeply what is your fool. Knowing clearly there's nothing but Dhamma. From the bonds of suffering we are free. Vô minh ta luân hồi, có khổ đau có tiếng cười cùng nước mắt. Vô minh luôn sâu dày nơi chúng ta mù quáng, ta đắm chìm trong bên mê. Đến với Dhamma bớt u mê tan dần si, giúp cho ta thêm giác ngộ về các pháp. Ngoài các pháp không có gì cần liễu tri. Hết vô minh dứt hoàn toàn mọi khổ đau. Đến với Dhamma bớt u mê tan dần si, giúp cho ta thêm giác ngộ về các pháp. Ngoài các pháp không có gì cần liễu tri. Mãi tri ân ánh sáng của Dhamma.
Hello everyone. Hello from hi, Isa, and
Hi,
everyone.
Jonathan.
Hello, good. And now,
Hi, John and Sarah.
Hi.
You can hear me okay, John?
Thank you,
Yeah.
John and Sarah.
Good.
Yes, everything okay, thank you.
Excellent.
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์Johnson.
So good afternoon, Ajahn, John and Sarah. So just wonder from the Vietnamese room, anyone has a question?
Because there was a discussion on the topic of becoming a monk. One of our friends said that he was thinking about becoming a monk. And there was the discussion about that, and he said we will continue this week. I think I don't see the friend from last time yet, but I will ask this question on behalf of another friend. She's been listening for some time already, many years, I think 6, 7, 8 years. And recently she told me that she's also thinking about becoming a monk. And we had a discussion on that topic, at like the meaning of being a nun, monk, renunciate. And then after some time, she said to me that she still thinks that she would become a nun, but she would like to have some advices to her. I don't know what to say. So I think that I want to bring this to the discussion so that she can hear your comments from Achan and from John and Sarah. Thank you.
One point I was going to add to our friend last time, but I think we ran out of time, is he said when asked what his reason or motive was, he said that he would like to have more time to study Dhamma. And I think this is not the right understanding of what is meant by studying Dhamma. Studying Dhamma doesn't mean having no job, being away from family, no responsibilities, just more time to read books. This is not what is meant by studying the Dhamma. The true meaning of studying the Dhamma means developing understanding of what life is. What the truth is now at this very moment, no matter whether one is doing one's housework, one's daily chores, going to the office. There is seeing, there is hearing, there is thinking. There can be true study anytime. So it depends not on having more free time. It depends on the understanding right now. So thinking that one will become a monk in order to have more free time to study shows there isn't enough confidence and understanding of what the Buddha's teaching is at this very moment. And we discussed about what is meant by true renunciation, true nekama. And the true renunciation can only occur through the development of the right understanding of the path and the gradual renouncing of wrong view and other akusala, clinging to having results, clinging to having free time, clinging to not being disturbed. The nekama has to develop with understanding, gradually letting go the strong clinging to having a result for oneself, to having life the way one would like it to be, all these different kinds of clinging to oneself. So if one truly has the accumulations and tendency to be a good monk, and there is the suitable place where one can follow the rules perfectly, which is almost impossible to find, then one can live that lifestyle. But if one's motive is to have more free time, to have less worldly responsibilities, then this is not the correct reason.
And I think what Sarah has just said about the idea of studying Dhamma
Tôi nghĩ
being
rằng là
long,
cái điều mà Sarah vừa mới nói về việc ý điểm mà
not
tìm
being the
hiểu
right idea.
pháp,
Sorry,
để
Tom,
có
we're
thêm thời gian
hearing
để
you.
có thể khảo sát.
Yeah, I'm just waiting till she gets. Shall I start again?
Sorry.
We're getting your audio coming over. Tambak. Ready?
Yes, I turning it off. Thank you.
Okay. And I think what Sarah said about having the wrong idea of what it means to study the Dhamma can also be said about having the wrong idea of what developing kusala means. Because most people who think of becoming a nun or a monk think that there will be a lot more kusala in their life by doing so. For example, they think that they will be leading a simple life, that they will attend chanting, that they will have useful discussion with their colleagues in the order, and that they will not be tempted to have the various kinds of akusala behavior that are common in daily life for most people. For example, harsh speech or overeating, watching television and going to the movies and romantic involvement and all that sort of thing. So from this, they believe that the life of the person as a monk or nun will involve a lot more kusala. But this is the wrong understanding of what it means, is what is meant by developing kusala. Because kusala is a mental state. It is not the actual deed that is done. It is the mental state that supports the doing of a deed. And a person's accumulation for kusala or akusala is the same regardless of whether they are living the household life or living a life of homelessness. It's just that by conditions, different kinds of kusala or akusala may manifest in their life. But it doesn't mean that because their physical bodily behavior is somehow restricted as a monk or nun, it doesn't mean they're developing more kusala in their life. So there's also a wrong understanding about the development of kusala and akusala that lies behind the decision to lead the homeless life. just to finish that bit, kusala can be developed as a layperson. It doesn't have to involve doing this or that, or leading a particular kind of life. As I said, it depends on the mental state. For example, the way one regards other people, whether it's as a friend or whether as an object of irritation or attachment. So there's plenty of opportunity to develop kusala in daily life as a layperson. Restraint from harsh speech, etc. It's just that there is not the recognition of the significance of the mental state of the present moment.
Thank you, John.
Tam is checking if the friend from last week, Tam Nguyện, he is in the Zoom now. So we're still waiting for the answer.
The other point is that as a layperson, one can follow as many rules as one likes. One can follow 5, 10, 20, 30, however many precepts one likes, and one can study the Vinaya and see the value in different kinds of rules, like the way one eats, the consideration for others, not asking for anything, and so on. But if one ordains as a monk and doesn't follow the rules perfectly, which is very, very difficult today, then actually it leads to the downfall of the teachings, and there are serious consequences. So much better to lead the life as a good layperson, following good sila, which means, as Jonathan said, good development of all kinds of kusala, than to lead a life as a monk, not following all the rules as laid down by the Buddha. And today, actually, there is no true order of nuns. So one can call oneself a sister or a nun or anything, but actually, according to the Buddha's teachings, the order of nuns died out a long time ago. So better just follow as many rules as one would like to in daily life as a layperson. I'm interested to hear any further comments from our friend from last week, Tam Nguyen.
I think he said he is on the bus, public transportation, so it's not really convenient for him to speak, although he is listening.
So my question to him, which I know it's not convenient for him to answer, but to consider at this moment, traveling on the bus, surrounded by other people who perhaps are all chattering, some eating lunch, but isn't there seeing now? Isn't there hearing now? Pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling. Can there be the development of understanding as taught by the Buddha here and now? Or does it mean that one has to go to a quiet place where there are no phones, no people, and secluded from the life of traveling on buses in order for that understanding. Because now the seeing is conditioned, the hearing is conditioned. It doesn't matter what is wearing, but what is important is the understanding at this very moment that this is life, no one to be found in the deepest sense, no person, no being, no ordained, no unordained, just different moments of seeing, hearing, thinking. And the Buddha said that in the deep sense, the real meaning of bhikkhu is the one that develops understanding of the truth, no matter monk or lay person. So these are a few points to consider now. So anyone here who is developing understanding at those moments is a bhikkhu. But the one who ordains, who doesn't develop understanding, actually isn't a bhikkhu, according to the Buddha's teaching. Perhaps Ajahn would like to add more to.
Can one just please my head? Can anyone?
Cannot hear Ajahn clearly. Can you hear?
Do you hear the echo?
You're not hearing.
Ajahn, we can't hear you properly. It's not clear.
I tried. Did you hear the echo?
Not the echo.
We
I
just
heard
hear
the
snatches,
duration.
a little bit, and then nothing. And then we hear a little bit more, and then nothing.
I tried again. See, I still hear. What's wrong, Kun M? Can you hear me now? ไม่มีใครตอบ
Yes,
ไปสักคน
Better.
So far it's better, Ajahn. Please carry on and we'll let you know if there's any problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Does anyone who'd like to live like monk understand the way monks live from morning to the night? or just want to be a monk. Before becoming a monk, what about reading and understand whether one has such accumulation to be happily follow the monk's rule? And what is the goal of becoming a monk? Not everyone, even in the time of Buddha, not all Savaka live monk's life. Only some who can understand one's own inclination to prefer to live as lay people, lay person, and study the teaching according to what has been accumulated. For example, right now, what's one accumulation? Appear in daily life unknown, that nobody can change the accumulation at all. That's why before wanting to live such and such way, what about reading and understanding the point, the very, very kusala moment in a day, different from lay person, because even the manners through the body and speech has to be so clean. No one can criticize or blame at all. So that can be the understanding of one's own accumulation. By then, that can be the decision to live like monk's life or lay person life. Is it better or just want to be a monk, not understand the rule and the point of becoming a monk? Because monk's life is a life of arahata. Even lay people can become Sotapanna, Sakadagami, and Anagami. But as soon as the person becomes Arahata, not being able to live as lay person's life at all, is that better? To understand the accumulation, just to live home to the end of life, to reach the goal, becoming Arahata. Otherwise, one can become Sotapanna in less life. And if one would like to be, shall one try like that at home first in order to see whether it's happily, easily life for oneself to follow, to live as one's life? By then, there can be the decision. But today, I think that monk's life is not necessary at all because no one can become arahata today. So what about understanding the truth right now? Otherwise, how can monk's life help or condition understanding to be arahata? Not in this time, but okay, arahata, not able to be there. What about sotapanna, sakadagami, and anagami? And there were many sotapanna in the Buddha's time, while monks at those times didn't reach the goal of becoming arahata or even sotapanna. Try at home, follow the rule little by little. Can one follow all the rules of monks? If one can, one is able to live monk's life. How long? Depending on accumulation again. That's why being truthful to the accumulation in a day. Is there no kilesa, no attachment to sensuous object, or less or more? What about becoming a Sotapanna without becoming a monk?
Still very difficult, Ajahn.
And when monks didn't follow the rules properly, it's so dangerous. Never be Sotapanna if that person does not follow the rule to tell about what one had done, forgiveness with sincerity. Even just some very, very small rule, one has to understand that one has done against the rule, not respectful to the teaching, to the Buddha, very dangerous. And if one doesn't know what is the result, becoming a monk and didn't follow the rule, what about next life? Where to be born?
Thank you, Ajahn and John and Sarah. I think it's really deep and helpful answers for us all to consider. I'd like to deepen something
Chị
for
Tâm
the
chuyển mic chị
friend.
Tâm ơi.
For the friend who asked me the question, she might think that all what you have said apply to becoming a bhikkhu, which is really difficult. But for her, becoming a nun, so it doesn't involve having a lot of precepts to do. So it's easier than becoming a monk. What is your comment on this?
More rules for nuns than monks. Why? The reason? See, we have to understand the truth. Is it important to be a nun or a monk? Or the important is understanding the teachings of the Buddha? As lay people, when we do something wrong, we can ask for giving pardon and so on. But for monks, much more to do than that. And if one doesn't know about the rule but become a monk, so dangerous, because it's not the meaning of being monk.
Come back from your question, I'm getting the impression that becoming a nun in Vietnam involves only following a relatively small number of precepts. Is that
Hai người đang
correct?
dịch đó.
And the nun today is not the nun in the Buddha's time. So just be lay person, not nun or monk. Female monk, none at all. It died away after Buddha passed away. for some time. So now, no nun according to the Vinaya, only Upasaka or Upasika.
During the Buddha's time, when after lots of besieging, the Buddha agreed to allow women to become nuns, they had to follow all the rules for monks, plus additional rules. So 227 plus many more, because of the dangers for nuns. So actually much, much stricter for the nuns. And a few centuries later in Sri Lanka, there was a great famine, and it was at this time that the order of nuns died out. There were no more nuns after this time. So what are considered to be nuns in Vietnam or Taiwan or other China or even Thailand are actually not true nuns according to the Buddha's teaching. So they may dress or call themselves nuns and just follow 10 precepts or however many they have decided. But actually, from the point of view of the teachings of the Buddha, these are not true nuns. So they can just follow as many rules as they like or dress how they like, just like other lay people can. So there's no point for the friend you mentioned in announcing she's leaving the lay life and becoming a nun, because actually it's the same considerations. One can follow as many rules as one likes, but actually one will still be a lay person. And as we've discussed many times, when we talk about sila, there is kusala sila and akusala sila. And kusala sila doesn't refer to the number of rules or the kind of dress one's wearing, but the behavior of the citta. So now, is it kusala sila or akusala sila? At moments of kindness, at moments of generosity, at moments of understanding, it is kusala sila, no matter whether one's on the bus, no matter whether one's at work, no matter how one is dressed. But if one is in the temple, clinging to a certain way of living or to following certain rules or clinging to what is seen or heard, at those moments, it's akusala sila. One cannot say at those moments that there is any wholesome sila, no matter whether one has undertaken 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 rules. It doesn't matter. It's the citta now that is important. For example, at the moment of abstaining from harming or killing, there is kusala sila at those moments of abstaining with understanding. It doesn't matter whether one is a lay person or a monk. Kusala is kusala. Akusala is akusala. If there is ill will towards one's colleagues or the other people one lives amongst, it's akusala sila, no matter whether one is living in a temple or as a lay person. So that's why there has to be the understanding of the teacher's teachings now at this very moment. And this is the way that one can appreciate that the path is just the same, no matter for monks or nuns, lay men, lay women. It's always the path of developing understanding of the truth of life at this very moment. That's why the Buddha's teachings were for all, slave girls, rich kings, monks, nuns, anyone.
And the teachings of the Buddha are classified by different ways, like Sila and Vinaya, Sutta, and Abhidhamma. But the truth is the truth. What is good or wholesome is wholesome, no matter who behave in such a way. When one behaves in kusala way, no matter one can do how many according to the monk's rule, but no need to tell anyone. You just follow it because you understand it is so very wholesome. That's all. No mark, no sign to show how much or how many rules we have followed. Who knows who follow more rules, more than 5, when one reads the Vinaya and understand what is good for everyone. It's not limited just for monk to do, but for anyone to follow the wholesome way. No need to wear, no need to tell anyone how many rules or wholesome way one follow. Is that better? And when one has done something wrong or just a little unwholesome way, it depends on whether one see the danger of it, but no, not necessary to tell anyone to ask for pardon or anything at all. Understanding itself correct the behavior little by little to be a little more wholesome or more wholesome speech and deeds by conditions. And that's the way to let go the self too and all other akusala. Be truthful to the truth. Be true to the truth. What is there as it is. And lay people can do more kusala by way of lay's life. For example, dana, see, helping the others. Can monk help the others like lay people? Building a temple or even home or whatever? Receiving money for such and such kusala duty or what to be done? In Thai, we use the term Buddha's company, comprised monk and bhikkhuni in the Buddha's time, and upasaka, male and female follower. So what motivates the idea of wanting to be a monk without understanding monk's life from morning to night? For example, when monks wakes up, what that monk do in a day? As lay people or different? Wholesomeness is wholesomeness. No matter one think that one is monk or lay people. So we pay respect to the one who is real monk, following the truth strictly, because understand the virtues of living such life and following the rules, because Buddha laid a very, very wholesome way of living to monks from morning to night, every day.
And I think today that because there is so little right understanding of the teachings, I think actually as layperson, more opportunities to discuss and consider and read, to join discussions such as here. I think in many temples where the other monks follow wrong practices, chanting, meditation, different ideas about what the way is. It's very difficult if one's living in this environment not to follow what one is told one needs to do, living peacefully in the temple. So I think it's very difficult to live as a good monk today, no matter in Vietnam or Thailand or anywhere, because so little right understanding of the teachings. But as a lay person, one can associate with whoever one would like to associate. One can join any discussion, read any Dhamma book. One doesn't need to follow chanting, which one doesn't understand. One doesn't need to sit cross-legged and pretend to meditate, which one knows is of no value at all. One can lead one's life happily and easily, developing understanding with more and more confidence about what the truth is now as taught by the Buddha. Does anyone, not just our friend from last week, does anyone have any comments or questions or that they would like to make?
Chị xin có câu hỏi.
Yes, there's one question from Xuân Lan.
Thưa Ajahn, thưa ông bà John Sarah, về cái giới luật của vị tỳ kheo, con xin hỏi thêm một cái câu hỏi rằng là có nhiều vị sư bây giờ thì cái phương tiện sử dụng của người ta bây giờ không có giống như lại cái thời của Đức Phật nữa, và có những vị thì người ta biện hộ cho cái việc mà mình sử dụng những cái phương tiện khác với lại những cái những cái tứ vật dụng mà Đức Phật đã quy định đó, thì người ta có những cái lập luận rằng là Đức Phật đã tịch diệt nay là 2.500 năm hơn rồi. Như vậy thì cái thời bây giờ nó đã khác với lại cái thời của Đức Phật, thì mọi cái điều kiện sinh hoạt nó cũng có khác. Chẳng hạn như bây giờ con thấy là các vị cũng vẫn lên mạng, vẫn dùng những cái phương tiện đó để mà trao đổi, thì cái điều đó có đúng hay không ạ?
Yes, Ajahn, John and Sarah, I want to have one more questions about the rule applied for the monk. So now there are some monks, they are no longer use the phone methods or the phone tools as the Buddha taught in the past.
The four requisites.
the four prerequisites. And the excuses are that now the environment is much different. Now it has been 200, more than 200, 2,500 years after the time the Buddha passed away. So they need to change, they need to adapt to the new condition. For example, some of them, they still go to the internet to exchange. And I want to ask, is it according to the Vinaya?
After Buddha has passed away, what monks do it? See, about the teachings, about the Vinaya, did they just live as they like, or just live as Buddha laid the rule for monks, no matter at any time, before or after his life?
Dạ
His
thưa
death?
Ajahn, con nghĩ là giới luật của vị tỳ kheo mà do Đức Phật đặt ra đó thì nó vẫn không thay đổi à. Tức là các vị đó vẫn phải sống theo giới luật, dù cho là có bao nhiêu lâu đi nữa thì con nghĩ cái giới luật đó cũng vẫn không thay đổi à.
Ajahn, I think that the rules are not changed, and how many years has passed by, but the monks still need to follow these rules.
That is the monk in the Vinaya of the Buddha. Never changed what Buddha has set the rule for monk's life. Who's the Buddha? Didn't he know about the future, no matter how long, far away from now? Even he said the rule can be changed according to the monk's agreement, but still no monks change at all, because before Buddha set the rule, he asked all the monks to agree on did they think about that, and they all agreed what he said to be the rule for monks, the way monks' life is, no matter then or any time coming. Otherwise, if anyone changes, it means that the rule is not so pure, not so very wholesome to be not lay people anymore, because they can live in the wholesome life more than lay people. Otherwise, what is the difference between living as monk to be monk, or just live like lay person even when one has ordained to be a monk? The most important is understanding the benefit, the wholesome life as it is. It's so worthwhile to follow as much as possible for anyone who can see the benefit, the precious, wholesome life. But without understanding the teachings, can there be less and less unwholesomeness? Not seeing the danger, not seeing the value of each rule for monk, that it is possible only for those who have accumulation to follow it, to live such life happily, easily. What about wanting to be monk but cannot live as the rule of monk laid out there for monk to live? Daily life. the person who breaks the rule, does he understand the great wisdom of the Buddha, the virtues of the Buddha? And without understanding this point, why does one become a monk? What for? Who's the teacher? Who's the great teacher? His teaching is just like miracle. It changed from great accumulation of unwholesomeness to be all eradicated, never to arise again. What any kind of miracle can perform such miracle like the teachings of the Buddha? If there's no understanding of the value of the teachings of the Buddha, why does one want to be a monk? Not follow the teachings, not follow the rules of monk. So what is there? No understanding of the great wisdom of the Buddha, no understanding of wholesomeness, no understanding of right understanding, which can see the difference between kusala and akusala. So, no understanding of the teachings of the Buddha at all. Anyone, any monk who does not follow the rule and having done such sin or unwholesome deeds, not follow the rule to have the danger to become gone or less. Apathy, see, it's still there. If one does not just live the monk's life, that which has been done, akusala, still there for the whole life, condition the next birth.
And it seems as though one's living a life as a bhikkhu, but it's under false pretenses, like a kind of stealing, because one is being supported by lay people who believe they're supporting the bhikkhu who follows the Buddha's teachings and who teaches them more about the Buddha's teachings. But they are making excuses. Today, the conditions are different from 2,500 years ago, and they must have phones and computers and money and this and that. But actually, it's like taking the support of the lay people, but not living truthfully at all. So actually, they are causing great harm to themselves, as Ajahn mentioned, but also to the teaching of the Buddha, to the spreading of the Buddha's teachings, because they are teaching the wrong way, taking the benefits falsely. As Ajahn mentioned, at the time of the Buddha, before the Buddha died, there was discussion about whether any rules could be changed, and it was agreed no rules could be changed. The truths, the realities are just the same now as then. So the basic requisites are just the same as at that time. So we can see how difficult it is to lead the good bhikkhu's life. But if one cannot lead it properly and well, then much better to stay as a lay person and follow as many rules as one would like.
To be truthful, if the monk does not follow the rule, does he respect the Buddha?
No, Ajahn.
Dạ. No, Ajahn.
See, so is he a monk in Dhamma Vinaya? The truth is the truth.
Dạ, no, Ajahn.
That's why does one want to be a monk or a nun or bhikkhuni while there's no bhikkhuni today? Because to become bhikkhuni is so very, very strict by the rule. And satya is parami. Without satya, there can never be the understanding of the truth, because the truth is the truth. Nobody can change the truth at all. Who's the Buddha and who's monk in his Dhamma Vinaya?
Also, there's a point that the friend said that the reason she started thinking again about becoming a nun is she saw a nun who was having was inspiring a lot, like giving the image of being very pure. It just inspired her to live such a very pure life.
Yes, and that is the wrong idea people have about developing kusala, that because someone can live fairly easily, not as a bhikkhuni, of course, but as a nun, which involves just a limited number of precepts. But because they wear the white robe, they walk slowly, they act, speak gently as far as one can observe, it seems that it must be a life of more kusala. But this is, thinking this way confuses outward appearance with inner mental state. One doesn't know the inner mental state of the individual who is seen to be leading the pure life.
Then nun is not bhikkhuni. So what
Yes,
life
Ajahn.
is nun's life? It can be anyone now who follow the rule as much as they can see the benefit of having such rule. Not just the word, but the way of life, purer and purer, to the degree of that what we call in the Buddha's time, bhikkhuni. It's not none at all, because there are bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, and upasaka and upasika, that's all. Lay's life and monk's life is different by rule, according to accumulation, which condition that one can follow the monk's rule life or just lay people's life. The danger is unwholesome, not just the word. by calling a monk or a nun or lay people. In truth, nun is just like upasaka, not bhikkhuni at all. Anyone can have more than 5 rules or 8 rules according to one's accumulation. No need to be called by the dress or by way of living, different from that who does not wear white or dark color. Or does anyone just want to be praised or admired as not being a lay person?
And if we ask the person who is leading, the person who is apparently leading the nun's life in a wholesome way, if one were to ask that person about their understanding of the path of development, what would the answer be? One doesn't know. But it may be that they also have the idea that by being a nun, there is more development of kusala than as a lay person. And what is important, as Ajahn has been stressing, and also Sarah, is the mental state, the wholesome mental state, both in terms of the development of the path and in terms of kusala in one's life, in general, kusala in general in one's life. And for this, it is not necessary to be in a certain situation or to lead a certain lifestyle or to wear a certain uniform or to live among people who have the same idea as oneself. Because that can never be what determines the wholesome or unwholesome quality of the mental state. It is always determined by the accumulated tendencies of the individual. And their understanding of what are kusala moments and what are akusala moments in life, or what is the development of the path, the understanding of the true nature of present moment realities. And this is what is important, not the particular lifestyle being lived.
And when we have an image of purity, as you mentioned, what is it? What is this image of purity? Is it of wearing a particular kind of clothing? Is it the outward manner? What is the image of purity? Actually, it's just our own idea. What about the understanding of the citta now when thinking like this? Is it wholesome or unwholesome? Is there clinging? Is there kindness? Is there understanding of the truth of reality? Or what is the citta, which is thinking about this image of purity that one would like to follow or have? For example, some people may have the image of purity of giving away all one's possessions. Does it mean there is less clinging when one has no possessions? Or is there still clinging to the idea of having those possessions, those family members, a home? So what the Buddha taught us is that it's not the circumstances or the outward appearance that is the sign of purity, but the nature of the citta at this moment. One can wear white clothes and look very calm, but be plagued by attachment and ignorance at this moment. No one can tell from the outward appearance. So the only purity that matters is the purity of citta, and this can only be developed through understanding. Only understanding can know when the citta is truly calm and when attachment is there, what an ignorance is, what understanding is, what the reality is at this very moment. So it's not the outer appearance that is important, but the inner understanding.
And consider, why does one want to wear such clothes or clothing, white or black or white or different color, maybe dark color? Why? Why does one want to be or to wear such clothing? Anyone can do any good deeds without wearing such clothing. So why does one want to wear it?
I think there's the assumption that when one becomes the members of that order, then it will be easier to have kusala.
What does it mean, wearing such clothes?
Yes, I agree, Tambak, that people think that there'll be more conditions for developing kusala if one is leading that kind of lifestyle. But that is an assumption people make without truly appreciating what it means to develop kusala. Because limiting one's actions by following rules does not mean that the citta there is more kusala in the citta, in the mental state. It just means one is following a certain kind of behavior. One is walking at a modest pace instead of hurrying. One is carrying oneself properly and not looking around too much. One is eating at a modest, eating in a manner that's not considered a greedy manner, this sort of thing. But following these rules does not mean the citta is kusala. It is just a kind of self-imposed restriction that is being followed. And what is important is the an extent to which wholesome consciousness arises in a day naturally, not because there is the following of rules, but because that is the natural inclination. And as I said, following rules does not mean the consciousness is any less akusala than otherwise.
So why does one wear such clothes? The sign of purity, the sign of understanding, or what? Kusala is akusala, no matter who knows or not. So when one wants to be Anand, just to wear such clothes, of what for? To be known that now one will develop right understanding and wholesomeness, not as lay person, or what? Why does letting the other know what one is behaving?
Yes, the question is so good to consider.
And at moment of understanding the teachings of the enlightenment and pay respect to his great virtues, respectfully, does one have to wear cloth or white or any kind to make it known?
No, Ajahn.
To be truthful to the truth is the only way to understand what is there as it is. Kusala or akusala, attachment or not attachment, not ignorance, but right understanding. Is right understanding. Realities cannot be changed at all because it's a reality.
Dạ, em muốn nghe thôi ạ. Em cảm ơn ạ.
And Ajahn, John and Sarah, I think that is also even us as a layman, I think that the relevant to a lesser extent is sometimes we also think so much about or rely about the outer appearance, about the situation, and take so much of the importance of this condition, isn't it?
You mean that lay people have more
Yes.
attachment to appearance and to the situation?
No, I mean even the lay person that they have that they have to answer that questions of whether maybe not to the extent of to be a monk or not a monk, but even a lay person, they can think that they can choose a different lifestyle among being a lay person. Then that would actually lead to more kusala or more understanding. So the same question, whether we living the lifestyle of a monk or of a lay person, if we think that other condition rather than the mental stage, it is the most important.
Yes, quite so. People think in general that by changing the situation, it will be a condition for more kusala, and changing the situation can involve modifying their lifestyle, modifying their way of dress, modifying the people they associate with, different things like this. And that is the conventional idea of improving one's wholesomeness, the degree of wholesomeness in one's life. It's all about deeds of body and speech, and not about the mental state from moment to moment. So that is the misconception people have about the way things are.
And like you say, Hai, these ideas so common in the day. We may think, oh, if I gave up my job, or if I didn't spend so much time cooking, or I dressed more simply, on and on and on. It actually shows not enough confidence in the teaching, not enough confidence in understanding what life is at this moment. Because at those moments, it's just thinking about this idea, that idea, this situation, that situation, getting rid of the colorful clothes, living in a temple, having less work, having more time to study. It's endless thinking about one story after another. But what about the understanding now of seeing, the understanding of thinking, the doubt at this moment, the strong clinging to I, what I should be doing, how I could be living differently. At those moments of thinking like that, is there any generosity? Is there any kindness? Is there any understanding? Otherwise, it's just thinking on and on with clinging and ignorance as usual. So this is why the teachings come back to the understanding right now of dhammas. No one here, no one to live this way or that way. Just chittas, ceitasikas and rupas arising by conditions and falling away. So life is so short just at this moment. And that's why what the Buddha taught 2,500 years ago is never out of date, because it's still exactly the same truth today. So as Ajahn said earlier, does one respect the Buddha if one doesn't respect the rules for the monks just as they are? If one doesn't respect the truth that life is just the same now as it was then, or whether as a monk or a lay person, there can be the development of understanding. Without this confidence and understanding, it shows not enough respect for the Buddha and his teachings. So it's just endless thinking about doing this, doing that, all with the idea of I, not the understanding of Dhamma now.
And according to the Vinaya, is the temple is where everyone can live. Is it the place for anyone to live? According to the Vinaya, that's why without learning about the details, the very, very subtle way of monk's life, can anyone live as monk? According to Vinaya, that's why even lay people have to understand the Vinaya because it's the way of living in different life. Monk's life has to live according to Vinaya. So is the temple the place where anyone can live? What does Vinaya say about anyone who lives in the temple?
No, it's the place for the monks to live who follow all the rules perfectly according to the Buddha's teaching, not for anyone who would just like to escape the lay life and follow however many rules they would like to and just wear the outer appearance of the monk.
And even Bhikkhuni, can they live in the same place where monks live?
Impossible.
That's right. Why do we live in the temple? No understanding of the rule, so subtle. Only understanding why it's laid out as this. Only the Buddha can lay out the rule for monks because of his great understanding of kilesa and everything, suitable or unsuitable. And what is the respect to the Buddha? The understanding of what he said about the truth. So before doing anything, not just by wanting, but by understanding the truth of what is there, because they are dhammas, but who understand the subtlety of the wholesome reality and unwholesome reality, different degrees. So different with each rule of Vinaya. That's why they have to be the foremost about Vinaya. It's not easy at all. So very complex. Understanding what Buddha taught, no matter it's about Vinaya or Sutta or Abhidhamma, is the way that understanding only can understand the great virtues of the Buddha and respectfully follow his word because it's so very precious, like miracle, from ignorance to be understanding deeper and deeper until all kilesa is completely, absolutely eradicated, never to arise again. It's at the point of studying the teachings, of beginning to understand who's the Buddha, his great virtues, wisdom, purity, compassion for all, everyone. Who cannot understand the truth of is so great beyond anyone else in the universe.
It's really precious, I think, today, all what we could hear from sharing Achan and Chun and Sarah. I think really worth considering. Very, very precious. So I so much appreciate it. So I heard some friends say that about the value of being close to the wise friends. We can see how well they behave, and we can from their behavior. But I think the greatest gift from the wise friends is the understanding. And today, when I hear you talking about this topic, I can see how great it is, because many things that you said are worth considering, not one time, but many times again and again.
And I think we have to keep hearing and considering again and again. Like Hai said, it may make good sense. And then there are doubts, and then we start thinking, but maybe what about this way of life or that way of life? Or maybe it would be easier if this or that, because the doubts are bound to arise. And the idea, clinging to I, doing something, following a practice, living in a particular situation. So actually what is important is the understanding and the confidence that the teachings are all about understanding now at this moment, no matter where or what dress there is or how many rules we're following. What about the understanding right now? And this way all the questions are answered more and more confidently and easily. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Come on.
Thank you, Achan Anumothanu. Thank you, Chun.